Yo, what's good, my fellow Magic Knights? It is your boy DEADMANVINCE back with yet another Black Clover mobile video. We actually just recorded our attacker tier list. Hopefully people are raging in their little computer chairs at home at what Deadman had to say, because I like to be honest, like to speak the truth. And yeah, it is what it is, man. If you hate it, then who cares? But we're on to the next tier list. We're going to be doing debuffers. I'm actually going in order by how many characters are in each class. Attackers have 22, debuffers have 9, supporters have 9, guardians have 8, and then healers have 6. So you kind of can figure out the rollout of the videos from that point on. But yeah, we're going to go ahead and just hop right into this tier list here. I already explained the tiers in the first video, the attacker video. So if you haven't seen that, definitely go check that out. The first mage up here is Charlotte, and this video is going to be drastically shorter than the other one. All the videos will be drastically shorter than the first one. The attacker one just took super long because there's 22 DPSs in the game, and then literally every other category is not even one half of that. Charlotte is a solid choice. Charlotte has the ability to give you infinite turns if the other mages that you're running with her are strong enough, and that alone is impressive. Honestly, nah, I can't put her on Wizard King level because she's not really doing much by herself. You know, like Fifth Leaf activity is I can throw you on any team and it's cool. Wizard King level is like everything that you do, you can do it by yourself. Solid choice is like you work really well in a setup. Not the best means like you need other characters to make you reach your fullest potential. And then Big Gaming Y is like, come on, bro. Solid choice for Charlotte. Yeah, I like the extra turns. She has bleed. She has damage. She has defense reduction. Yes, and she works really well with Red Yami, who's really great for farming stages. Not even just like green farming stages, but like farming stages in general. So do not sleep on Charlotte. Plus, they give you Charlotte at the start of the game anyway. If you're a new player, Charlotte is like a guaranteed character in the first multi. So you get her, you might as well work on her. You know, the more dupes you get, you'll get dupes for her down the road. Other characters, you're working to try and get them in the first place. Charlotte is somebody that you're gonna have anyway. You might as well go ahead and work on her. She's pretty good. Lotus is who you should be re-rolling for whenever you start a new account. Lotus is Wizard King level, just a bit better than Charlotte here because he has a lot of control over speed. He can really slow down the enemy team so that eventually they get to a point where they're at a standstill and they're not really getting turns off. Also, he can do concentrated attack, which makes every attack an enemy takes a critical hit. Then he also can do, what is it called? Incapacitate. Incapacitate is an effect that just makes enemies take extra damage. So he can make enemies take like extra 50% of damage, I believe. Like Lotus is everywhere in the fight. He's really good, honestly. That's really crazy because this video is going to be drastically shorter than like the rest of like the other videos. Let me go into his kit and actually look a little more in depth to it, because I feel like this video, just me giving you like these quick spitball like descriptions, it just feels like the video is going to be over in like no time. So skill 1 has a 50% chance to reduce mobility. If you get it up to level 5, it has a 55% chance to, or no, 50% chance to reduce mobility by 20% versus 15%, and that hits everybody, so he can do that to everybody, which is really good. Skill 2 is the only single target in his kit. It inflicts extended debuff duration by 1 turn, and then does reduced damage resistance level 3, and then also does the concentrated attack if you have his skill page. I'm pretty sure his skill page gives him makes it so that he has a higher chance, it gives him another different proc for taking away your stamina, so that's also pretty good. Then we have his ultimate. Level 3 Incapacitate for 2 turns, which is 50% extra damage taken. Has a 50% chance to remove all buffs on an enemy. I think it's a designated enemy though, not all the enemies, but still. If you get it up to level 5, you have a 60% chance to remove all buffs. So it's really good to have a 60% chance to remove all the buffs on the person that you're trying to like focus and get rid of. Then you have 50% chance to inflict reduced speed level 3 on an enemy for 2 turns, which is also very good. And reducing speed and stamina at the same time is just like a recipe for disaster for the enemy team. They will not be able to get their turns off. His skill 2 is an AoE, or his combo skill is an AoE, which I do really like, and also has a 60% chance to inflict 20% reduced mobility on an enemy. Unfortunately, you cannot boost that percent chance. And I will read out the United Attack because Mars is an absolute Chad still to this day, so you would be running him on your team possibly. Inflicts reduced speed level 3 on an enemy for 2 turns is what he does. If you have him LR, he gets increased magic attack plus 12%, and that's the thing about it is Lotus's natural kit with his skills already does what it does so well that like the other parts of his kit are allowed to do other things that maybe are not things you would expect to happen, right? So Lotus having the extra magic attack makes him low-key like a nice kind of like DPS kind of unit too. Like early on, Lotus was doing pretty solid like damage. He was pretty consistent with the damage, and he spreads it out very evenly because he has so many AoEs, right? So Lotus is very good in that regard. Then if you get Lotus to 2-star, 25% chance to inflict a 10% reduced all attack debuff on an enemy for 1 turn upon attacking. Or if you have him 5-star, 35% chance to inflict 12% reduced all attack debuff on an enemy for 1 turn. So I never even noticed that was going on. This man Lotus also gives your team a little bit more survivability as well, which makes which makes it easier for you to kind of do what you need to do. It's a lot easier to think about what you need to do when you're not trying to defend your ass as hard as you possibly can. Next up on the list, we have this Noelle. I would say this Noelle is probably Wizard King level as well. I still run into this Noelle in PvP to this day. She's such a nuisance. So you remember how I was talking about Yami having, in the attacker video, I was talking about Yami having all 8 SP means that he has 30% damage reduction and he has a shield guaranteed every turn. That is like that his turn comes back around, right? Noelle skill 1 takes away 1 SP. So if Noelle attacks Yami turn 1, then like automatically Yami's not getting a shield on the 2nd turn, and automatically, because I know that his SP will go back up to 8, but I think the turn has to start out with his SP at 8 for it to work. That means that he also wouldn't have the damage reduction, which would be really bad, because Yami is an attacker, so he can be pretty squishy. And also Maria Leona needs SP plus 8 to maintain mana skin on herself. So Noelle automatically, just on those 2 characters, taking away SP is like really toxic, really not fun to deal with. Also, she extends debuff duration on her skill 1. Skill 1 is extended debuff duration and taking away SP. Her skill 2 is a single target. It inflicts magic attack reduction level 2, so you're not hitting as hard. She taunts, which is really annoying. Then you also do SP -1 on all enemies. And if you have her skill page, she blocks HP recovery for 2 turns on an enemy, on the designated enemy. So very not fun to deal with, but it gets even worse. Yeah, on her ultimate, she takes away SP -3, removes all buffs on an enemy, and inflicts weapon disarm level 3 on an enemy for 2 turns. That means that damage is reduced by 34%. So not only are you disarmed, you are also not buffed anymore, and you also just lost 3 skill points. GG. Try to make it back up, or special points, I'm sorry. Noelle is such a I hate seeing her in PvP, man. Her unique passive, at the start of the turn, inflicts a 40% reduced damage dealt debuff on attacker class enemies for 1 turn. That's toxic. I didn't even realize that's what she was doing. Then if you have her 2-star, at the start of a wave, inflicts 30% increased damage taken debuff on all enemies. If you have her 5-star, at the start of a wave, 30% increased damage taken debuff on all enemies. When attacked, removes continuous HP recovery buff from all enemies. Wow, I did not know that, because that kind of negates Charmy's thing, right? If it doesn't negate Charmy's passive, it negates Charmy's skills themselves. So yeah, this Noelle is super annoying to deal with. Ah man, honestly, reading through this kit, Noelle was already annoying to deal with, thinking about the things that I already knew about her kit. But when I go through and look at everything and I see everything that I didn't know about, I'm like, nah, you're on devious time. You need to be sat down, Noelle. Please stop it. Oh, Noelle, you're not. No. Noelle, such a disappointment in my opinion. So, here's Noelle. Skill 1, 75% chance to poison. Skill 2, inflicts reduced magic attack, level 3 for 2 turns on all enemies, is AoE. And then grants 10% increased damage dealt for every continuous damage an enemy is taking. Now, that is bad because you only have a 75% chance to inflict poison with your skill 1, and it's a single target. 2, it's not 10% increased damage dealt for every debuff. If it was for every debuff on an enemy, this man would be leagues better. This man probably could make it up a solid choice. But since it's continuous damage, you literally need to build your team with other characters who are going to be doing continuous damage. I guess Maria Leona kind of helps him out because she can, you know, automatically do that for people. I guess Magna helps him out because he can automatically put fire on it. But it's just like, If I'm building the team with Magna and Marileona, I'm probably not going to be trying to use Nozel with them. There are other choices I'm trying to put around those characters if I'm using those characters, if you catch my drift here. His ultimate inflicts disarm level 3 on all enemies for 2 turns. His combo skill, SP -2, 60% chance to inflict buff block on an enemy. A chance to do buff block is mid. Combo skill with Fuego, 60% chance to do buff block, 65% chance to inflict an impact. Like, I don't like the percent chances to inflict certain things. I like when things are inflicted guaranteed. 1. 2, this man's skill 2 gives him 10% increased damage dealt for every continuous damage buff. This man only has one skill where he's giving continuous damage. And it's the skill 1, and it's only a single target. Unique passive. If you get him to LR, he has 12% damage reduction for having 3 SP or more. But what's his defense? 4-4, 5-8. What's his endurance or crit resistance? 0%. What's his endurance? 59. Yeah, man, this man ain't hitting on nothing. LR plus, if you give him 2-star, grants 8% increased damage dealt if at least one enemy is inflicted with a debuff. See, that's the better part. But you gotta get him 2-star for that. You gotta summon. You understand? You understand? You got this already mid character, and you want me to be, you are trying to incentivize me to go in and summon for 2 more copies of him just to make him decent? If he would automatically be better if his skill 2 said grants 10% increased damage dealt for every debuff, and then down here in his passive grants 8% increased damage dealt for every like continuous damage or whatever. And then if you have him 5 stars, 18% increased damage dealt if at least one opponent is afflicted with debuff. Like or if it said, if it switched around, it said on his skill 2, grants 10% increased damage dealt for every continuous damage or for every debuff an enemy has. That's better because debuffs are a lot more likely on a lot of different variety of characters versus continuous damage. Not every character is going to have burn, shock, or poison, but a lot of characters have like defense reduction or HP block or barrier immunity or this or that. You see, I just listed off like 3 different debuffs, and like those debuffs are common amongst characters. Like defense reduction is common amongst the characters. You know what I'm saying? HP recovery block is on one of the best characters in the game, if not the best character in the game. Like Asta, right? You have a recovery block on that character, right? So it's just like if it said debuffs versus continuous damage, that'd be a lot better. Then if you come down here, if it said grants 18% increased damage dealt if at least one opponent is inflicted with debuff, that's cool. That works for him. He has a little more freedom with his team building because even if it's just him on the team and he's the only debuffer, as long as he's getting that skill 1, debuff off, then boom, that extra effect will be in place. But like, it's like they did that in reverse and it doesn't work out in my opinion. Also, a chance to incapacitate is mid. Just disarm on his ultimate. It feels like his ultimate doesn't do enough. Like, yeah, no. Big Gaming, why did you even do this? Literally, after the first few updates, they tried to like update Nozel and make him better, and he still didn't get used after that. Now let's talk about this Nozel right here. This Nozel right here, my heart wants to put him in Wizard King level. As far as I've used him right now, I'm gonna move him to solid choice, and we're gonna take a look over his skill set. So pretty much the way this Nozel works: skill 1 is an AoE, skill 2 is an AoE. Automatically, I like the 2 AoEs. But skill 1, if 2 or fewer instances of Mercury are present on self, there is a 50% chance to inflict continuous poison damage on an enemy for 2 turns. So if you have 2 Mercury or lower, you have a 50% chance to do poison. If you have Mercury stacked up to 3 or more, poison is guaranteed on an enemy for 2 turns. And also, Mercury reduces the damage you take by 10% and it stacks up to 3 times. Aw, dang. Before, when I saw his like leaks and stuff, Mercury didn't have a stack point, but like stacks up to 3 times is like, it's okay. But yeah, if you have 3 Mercury or more, you can inflict poison on everybody guaranteed. Skill 2. 2 or fewer Mercury, disarm level 3 on an enemy. 3 or more Mercury, disarm level 5 on an enemy for 2 turns. Disarm level 3 is 34% damage reduction. Disarm level 5 doesn't have an actual like number to it, but I can just look at him in the game real quick and figure out. Disarm level 5 is going to be 42% damage reduction, or damage dealt reduction, or yes, you know what I mean. It's disarm. Let me charge my iPad here. On his ultimate, he inflicts immortality immunity on an enemy, automatically, off rip. It's a single target. Upon killing an enemy, using this skill, inflicts 90% of magical attack as extra damage on all enemies based on the instances of Mercury you have inflicted on yourself, and then it removes Mercury. So if you stack this man up to 3 Mercury, and then you use your ultimate, and then you kill the person that you're attacking, you're gonna do 90% of damage times 3, so 270% damage actually, against everybody if you have 3 stacks of Mercury. Then you lose your Mercury, and then you just get more, you just build your Mercury stacks back up. His combo skill inflicts poison, the poison is guaranteed. Passive. At the start of the turn, grants a stack of Mercury. This is if you get him LR. Mercury reduces damage by 10%. We already know that. If you have him 2-star, converts all instances of continuous damage on self into Mercury. And then at 5-star, converts all instances of continuous damage inflicted on self into Mercury. If you have 3 or more Mercury, your attacks apply poison on an enemy for 2 turns. So like just guaranteed poison on any attack at that point. Do you see how much better this man is than this man? Honestly, I'm putting him in Wizard King level. He's dirty. He has poison everywhere in his kit. If you got him built out right, he gets Mercury as soon as he starts. Literally, you go into a fight, you start off with Mercury already. If the enemy Marileona is faster than you, or no, if your strongest attacker hits Marileona, you just gave everybody on your team burn. The burn is just gonna turn into Mercury for him. Then literally he does a skill, gives himself another stack of Mercury. Boom, all of a sudden you're at 3 Mercury. You got 30% extra damage reductions chilling. You can use your ultimate at any time and do all this extra damage, blah, blah, blah. Like, bro. Nozel, this Nozel seems really good. And I want to give him 5-star before I start putting nails in the coffin. Because right now, I'll tell you, my Nozel is 1, 4-star. 2, all of them 1 skills because I'm waiting to buy the skill upgrade materials next month. And 3 only has a 1-star skill page. So Nozel seems very good, but until I can actually use him, I can't say that he's like absolutely like 5th leaf activity. Because realistically, if I got to use him, he was really good. I'd throw him up here. Like Noel's already up there, you know. I'm not scared to do it. But next up we have Rill. Rill's gonna be a solid choice. Rill is really good for the fact that if you go into PvP, he can be a terrorizer because he's a fast mage. If you have Voltos, you can pretty much get your stamina to max, use Rill's ultimate, and sometimes Rill stuns 3 out of 4 enemies on the enemy team, or he can stun 4 enemies on the enemy team, right? The problem is when you don't get those stuns, it can be very annoying. And using Rill, his main thing is getting those stuns and doing all his debuffs. If you're not getting those stuns or doing those debuffs, then you're not going to be having a good time. You're going to wish that you had somebody else in place of Rill so you can be doing extra damage. But like, Rill not only has the debuffs, or the stun, he also has he can reduce your defense by a lot. I think he reduces everybody's defense by like 60% on his skill 2, which is really crazy. Like, Rill was a front runner for me on PvP for a very long time before I finally like replaced him. But yeah, that's all I really got to say about Rill. Rill is chill. Rill is chill, yeah. Yuno, V2 Yuno, or not V2 Yuno, but Season 3 Yuno is also another very solid option. He has Incapacitate in his kit just like Lotus. He also has, he can lower enemy attack by 44%, and then I believe he lowers it by an additional 10% if you get like this extra part of his kit worked out. So that's like a 54% attack reduction. It works really well in combo with Raddies. That's what I started out with when I was doing like the green farming dungeon. I'll use Raddie for shield, and then I use Yuno to give myself an extra attack, or give the enemies attack reduction, so they can't just terminate my characters as soon as they strike them. But yeah, Yuno just feels like a really good general unit. If you watched my attacker tier list, I was talking about how Blue Yami is just kind of like a general all-arounder, you know? He just seems pretty good. This Yuno seems pretty good as well. He has some damage capability in there, but I don't really focus damage with him. Also, he can do, I think, stamina reduction. It's not speed, right? I think it's stamina reduction. Yes, his skill 1 does 15% decreased stamina. And to give you guys kind of like insight, his skill 2 does a 44% attack reduction on all enemies. And for every debuff an enemy has, grants 5% increased crit damage to himself. Then, his His passive when you get him to LR is applies a 10% attack reduction to all enemies for 2 turns when you use skill 2. So if you use skill 2, you're getting a separate 10% attack reduction and then the 44% attack reduction that's actually on the skill. So that is really good. And then if he's 2-star, upon landing a crit, there's a 50% chance to inflict 10% increased damage taken debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. And if you have him 5-star, upon landing a crit, there's a 100% chance to inflict 10% increased damage taken debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. So he's just a really good kind of like control kind of option. Very general, very basic, you know, all-arounder type of dude. Next up, we have Speed Trap, you know, V2, you know, is what I like to call him. What do I want this man? I don't know, because he is like a speed demon. Like, he just controls speed. You're on a full red team. He's usually going first out of everybody. He has silence on his kit. He also, yeah, no, it's that silence. It's that silence. Really. That silence would be crazy, because that's got me out of a lot of bad situations in PvP. But I don't know if I want to put him on Wizard King level though, just for the silence. Like, I don't know. I'll leave him as solid choice for now, and I'll think about it. I'll think about it whenever I get everybody on the list. But this is everybody. Zora's 5th leaf activity. Zora's, let me explain something to y'all. This man Zora, an absolute freak of nature. Skill 1, grants Reflective Trap level 1 for 2 turns to the ally with the highest attack. Reflective Trap. When the effect is applied, the damage received is reduced by 20%, and the reflected damage is equal to 150% of the original damage. When hit, inflicts SP -1 on the enemy, and when in an invincible state, the enemy, or that doesn't matter. But on his skill 1, he gives the highest attacking mage a Reflect Trap that deals 150% of the damage that was meant to be dealt to your mage back to the mage who did it. Also gives them SP -1, so a little bit of control right there, and even reduces the damage by 20%. So you're only taking 80% of the damage you're supposed to take. You're taking 80% of the damage that you were supposed to take. They're taking 150% of the damage that you were supposed to take, that they weren't supposed to take at all. That is evil. Reflect Trap is evil. I already knew that Zora was going to have some sort of mechanic where he gave somebody a buff and then the attacks would just kind of like bounce back, but I didn't know how they're going to do it. I thought maybe it would be like he puts it on somebody and then the attacks build up and then they just shoot everything back really bad, like really, really crazy. But like, I mean, I guess it does do that, but on a turn-to-turn basis versus stacking up over turns, which is better. Because in the attacker video, I was talking about how Season 5 Charmy requires like 5 turns to get to like her full damage potential, whereas this man, if they would have built him that way, then it would have been but since he's not built that way, he's really good. So right here, skill 2, 60% chance to grant debuff immunity on all allies for 1 turn, and if you get this to level 5, it's just a 100% chance for debuff immunity, so that's good. Inflicts SP -1 on all enemies, very good. Control, inflicts magic attack reduction level 1 on all enemies for 2 turns. Then if you have his skill page, grants Reflective Trap level 2 buff for 1 turn to all allies. So you go from skill 1 giving Reflective Trap level 1, which reflects 150% damage to enemies, to doing Reflective Trap level 2 on all allies. How much damage does Reflective Trap 2 send back, you ask? Reflective Trap level 2 sends back 225% of the original damage that was meant to be used. Now, this is already impressive in its own right. But think about a character like Black Asta who dominates the game in every aspect, right? And when he does that, when he does a skill 2 after the Witch Queen puts him into anti-magic, or after he naturally gets to anti-magic, he does a skill 2 and burns the enemy team. Now the enemy team, you're telling me that the enemy team has a Reflective Trap, they're taking 20% damage reduction on it, so maybe all of them don't die, because if you kill an enemy that has Reflective Trap on, then you don't take the damage. But if you don't kill the enemy, then you're kind of beat, right? If Asta doesn't kill anybody, because there are some highly tanky teams, there are some teams that have supporters, multiple supporters that give a lot of defensive buffs that the team just like survives, right? If you have Zora paired in with that, and Asta does his skill 2 and hits everybody, and doesn't kill anybody but does big damage still, then Asta's eating a lot of damage and he's dying guaranteed. He's dying guaranteed. That's how it always goes. And I guess Reflective Trap always does SP -1. Yeah, that's evil. Then you have Zora's ultimate. Zora's ultimate does Reflective Trap level 3 for 2 turns. to one ally. That one ally reflects back 300% of the original damage that was meant to be taken. Has a 60% chance to increase the ally's defense by level 5, and defense level 5 is 245%. But if you get the skill to level 5, he has a 100% chance to increase their defense by 245%. Then inflicts weapon disarm level 3 for 2 turns on an enemy with the highest all attack. So, the reflect is just mind-numbing. I can't believe they put this in the game. Honestly, like reflect really makes a lot of different mages in the game. Usually you kind of just go full throttle, do whatever you want. Reflect makes it so that you can't do that. A lot of different mages, you kind of have to like take a step back, like, okay, what am I really about to do here? Because like this man Zora is at mass, at large, and I got to get around that. You have him LR. If all allies are blue, grants 15 speed to self at the start of battle. Wow, that explains a lot. I did not know that. Because I'll try to go into fights to speed buff Yami or stamina buff Yami and get his turn in before Zora so I can kill Zora first. And like sometimes even though I do the buff for Yami, Zora still gets his turn on first. I'm like, why? Well, that explains it right there. Then if you have him 2-star, if the reflection trap effect is active at the start of the turn, 30% damage reduction buff is applied for 1 turn. And then at 5-star, if reflection trap is applied is active at the start of the turn, 30% damage reduction buff is applied for 1 turn. And if all allies are blue, inflicts buff blocking on an enemy with the highest all attack at the start of battle. Yeah, no, Zora. Yeah, Zora's 5th leaf activity, bruh. 5th leaf activity. There ain't no doubt in my mind. Zora's a demon. Zora's a menace. Now, here's the fun part where we get to kind of like look at the tiers and mix around what we think. So, Zora is better than this Noelle, for certain. Reflective Trap gives -1 SP like everywhere. So if you do Reflective Trap and somebody attack AoEs and hits all 4 of the mages on your team, do you lose 4 SP or just 1? That's the question. That's the question. Because if you lose 4 SP from that, then his SP control is kind of better than Noelle's. Yeah, this tier is good. This, dude, part of me wants to do something like this, low key. What do I want to do? Because I would desire using Nozel more than Lotus. I'm gonna be real. Even though Lotus is a different kind of like, you know, speed control still. And then I got the 2 speed controllers right here in this solid choice tier. I feel like Lotus kind of has died down a bit though. Like he's still good, but he has died down a bit. I think Zora is a new king of like debuffers, dude. Like Zora is different. Zora is different, bro. Oh, dude, I don't know. I'll leave Zora. I'll leave Lotus and Wizard King level. His heyday was quite the heyday when it was, and like he's still useful. He's still useful. I'll leave him there. At the top of solid choice, I'd probably go with this, you know. Then Charlotte, then like this, something along these lines right here. And like, yes, I do think far and away this man Nozel, V1 Nozel, is the worst debuffer, and it's not even close. There's nobody close to how bad Nozel is. I don't think so. Not at all. Not in my mind. But that's it for my debuffer tier list, man. I hope you guys did enjoy. That is your boy DeadmanVince. We'll be knocking out more tier lists, but yeah, we're just taking it one by one, and hope you guys, if you guys agreed, then you know, go down in the comments, let me know what you think. If you guys disagree, go down, let me know. If you think that Lotus is on 5th leaf activity, he deserves to be at the top of the tier list, then let me know absolutely by any means. Talk about it in the comments, or subscribe, or like. But that's gonna be it for your boy DeadmanVince. I hope you guys enjoy.